This is AVWeek, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. Last time I checked, at least, my name was Tim Albright. Thank you, by the way, to George Tucker for hanging out here and covering the base, as it were. I spent a couple weeks on site at a very lovely job site that I just thought I could not pull myself away from. So it was fabulous. Let me just put it that way. With us this week, first and foremost, my buddy, my pal, the editor-in-chief of AV Nation, also of his own site, soundreason.org, Josh Schrago. How are you, sir?
Hey, Tim, you pronounced it correctly. It must be the accent that just comes into it.
My accent or your accent?
Mine.
Okay.
Nah, things are good out here.
Good.
But thank you for having me on. I mean, I know I haven't seen you in a few hours.
Yes, Josh and I spent the week together, not the week, 3 days together at the AVI Systems National Sales Meeting. He wrote a very nice piece about it. I've got a couple pieces coming out on Monday, and I think I'm writing one for Commercial Integrator as well, so check that out if you would. Also with us from the University of Colorado, Mr. Peter Mitchell. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for the invite.
Absolutely. I'm going to make fun of Peter here in a second because he has a Cubs logo up in his background there if you're watching video. So we'll.
Just means he never gets invited back.
No. I enjoy rivalries. So also with us is Ray Estrada. Ray is from Tech Max Technologies. How are you, Ray?
I'm doing good. Good to be on the show.
Absolutely. And last but not least, my buddy, my pal, used to be from Crestron, then he went and worked at Lona at my buddies over there, and now he's back with Crestron. Some would say that you can't hold a job, Roger Takis.
Some would say. Hey, for having me back, Tim. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. A couple of pieces of housekeeping, stupid stuff. You know, hey, indulge me for a second. First and foremost, we've made some really good contacts over the last few years that we've been doing this, and one is the folks over at the Daily Do. If you're not familiar with them, they cover digital out of home, and they do this thing called Insights. Do Insights, and here's the very book right there if you're watching the video, and they did something very nice and very sweet. It's a yearly look at things happening in the digital space, and the article they wrote is called AV Nation Comes Into Its Own, and if you get a chance, this is a very nice book. It's very nice, heavy stock, glossy, and it's a pretty picture of Adrian Cottrell from the Daily Do, Brock McGinnis, my buddy George Tucker, and I think that's Dave Hatz on the end there, and then a dumbass picture of me. So thank you very much to them for doing that. The other thing is this, and I make fun of Peter, but today is somewhat of a historic. We're recording this on the 9th of October. We started the baseball season, start talking about the Cubs install. It's one that we got a lot of feedback on.
Mm-hmm.
Craig McCormick from Commercial Integrator wrote about the episode. We had a couple of manufacturers on. We had Harry Mead on talking about just the issues that the Cubs and Wrigley Field had going into the season. Here we are, good Lord, 6-7 months later, and wouldn't you know it, the Cubs are in the playoffs. And they're in the playoffs, not for the first time. I'm not going to be, a butthead and say that. But for the first time in history, do you realize this, Peter? The first time in history, the Cubs and the Cardinals are playing each other in the playoffs.
That I heard a few weeks ago that if that happened, it would be the first time. And you sit there and you think about it, 139 odd, 29, something like that, years of baseball, and they've never played each other in the playoffs. So you sit there and you go, okay, this could get interesting. Mm-hmm. And, if the wild card starts out with benches clearing brawls, then who knows what the five-game series is going to yield.
And Gatorade containers being beaten up, who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, well, let's just hope that the Gatorade container survive this series. But at least we don't have to fly back and forth from New York to L.A.
True.
Oh.
Here's the thing. The Cubs have the third best record in the league. And being a lifelong Cardinal fan, if the Cubs end up beating the Cardinals, which is very possible, honestly, I will don a Cubby hat and root for them for the rest of the series, because that would be, just in general, something special. So,
and just remember, you'll always have Robert Zemeckis to blame for this.
Well, yes, and the screenwriter is actually from St. Louis. The other guy that wrote it with Zemeckis. So if you don't know what that's from, kids, check out Back to the Future 2. So, all right, let's get on with some AV news. First and foremost, Polycom did an interesting tease this week. They said we're going to revolutionize the AV industry. We're going to revolutionize, what we do. It was lots and lots of hype, and typically when that happens, a lot of times in the tech world, it's a letdown. I would say it was not this Wednesday a letdown. Here's what they've got. So the Polycom Real Presence Trio. It turns their 3-point phone system into a collaboration hub. They have the Real Presence Centro, which I'm going to see if I can bring this up on the video portion. Basically, it's a neat little thing where you are. It's a piece of equipment in the middle of the room, right? And it's got it's got cameras, and it's got video, and it puts you in the center of a meeting. The Real Presence Debut, which is for collaboration for small rooms. Basically, it's a huddle space one. And in addition to that, all this other stuff, their new VVX business media phones are supporting Microsoft Office 365's upcoming cloud voice service, which I honestly did not realize even existed as up to this point. So you get all this stuff, really great stuff. And off the air, Josh and I are kind of chatting back and forth, and he's like, I hate this thing. I just don't like this thing. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? This is brilliant. This is gorgeous. And I'm going to let Mr. Strego explain what his biggest issue with this Polycom release is.
So it was specifically about the Trio that I was very upset. Not to get into the Star Trek Centro and the rest of it, but my issue with the Trio is I started running down the idea of everything that it does and everything that it's capable of. And it is absolutely brilliant from the Polycom standpoint. From the standpoint of a lot of AV integrators who may or may not have a direct relationship with Polycom, look at how many times we run into Fortune 100, Fortune 500 buildings where those companies do have a direct relationship with Polycom, buy the starfishes that currently exist directly. Now all of a sudden it's this product that they can buy directly. So now all those huddle rooms, all those smaller spaces where they were just putting in a starfish, now it's the Trio. And if you add on the Trio Plus, which is the video version of it with the collaboration option, because it is, you can get it with or without it, you do add in that factor that every huddle room will have the USB camera, it'll have the video sharing capability, it'll have the phone capability. It's a Skype for Business and a Link 2013 endpoint. It's got remote monitoring software capability. It links directly with a phone or a tablet via Bluetooth. So, I mean, we're talking competitive for the RL2. We're talking competitive for the Barco ClickShare. We're talking competitive for a lot of devices. And on top of that, it's sold direct to customers. So we go into these rooms and we can say, okay, great. So we'll provide you with these things. Oh yeah, we don't need that. We're just going to put this in the room. So, I mean, this goes after so many products that are in our space, as well as products like the Chromebox for Meeting that Google decided to put out. So you also have that aspect of it. And maybe we're going to still get the displays out of it, but as I was telling Tim, in some instances, depending on the company, they may already have a relationship with these companies to provide the displays directly. And if you go back to some of the earlier AV crosstalks, you can see Mark and I argue about direct sales, and he can mention specifically instances where the company he works for, Milestone, has gone after direct sales for enterprise solutions in this. So all of a sudden, the AV industry just sort of may have gotten pushed directly out of all of these 4, 6, even up to 10-seat rooms because now they can buy them direct from Polycom. They can have a direct relationship with a manufacturer for displays. They can have a direct relationship with a manufacturer for mounts. And there's nothing there for us anymore in these smaller spaces. So from Polycom's standpoint, this is positively brilliant. From my standpoint of a smaller AV integrator that doesn't have a direct relationship with Polycom, there's a part of me going, well, wow, I just got kind of kicked out of a lot of these smaller rooms. So that was the part where not as big a fan of it. But again, absolutely brilliant from an actual technology standpoint.
Josh, you bring up a really good point, because if you look at AV as a whole and how it's the consumer side of stuff has just started to impact left and right, and how we've gone, take for example something like a Walmart, and oh, that's great, and all of a sudden now we want to go to Costco because now we can get it wholesale. And it's the same type of philosophy of now we're looking at AV direct from a company, and bypassing the quote-unquote middleman. And people who, say a department like an educational department or something like that, that just decides, hey, I don't want to have to deal with it. I just want to go out and find something that I think works for me, and I'm just going to buy it. So you're right. Polycom made a move great for itself, but from an integrator standpoint, went a little bit around the bush, so to speak.
All right, real quickly, Peter, when it comes to that, though, I mean, as an education house, is that something where it's important to you to have that direct relationship, or and I'm assuming certain things here, right? Like, where Josh says it's going to be a direct relationship to the end client. We're assuming that there is going to be cost savings and things like that because there's not going to be a middleman in between. We don't know that for a fact, though. I mean, Polycom may very well say, you know what, we're still going to protect our partnerships with these integrators, and whether it's an IT integrator or an AV integrator. Mm-hmm. And so if you do have that direct relationship, you know what, it's going to be the same price as if you buy it from, XYZ integration. Is it beneficial then to have a direct relationship with the manufacturer?
I think to a certain extent some people might find it beneficial, but I think it depends on their knowledge base. I had an instance a couple of weeks ago where I was working with a school here, and they the guy that was there in the office just happened to, like, you know what, I want a video conferencing system. So he just went out and Googled it, and he pulled up a bunch of things, and all of a sudden he, when I walk in the room, he's starting to throw out, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? What about this? So given the fact that there are people out there, because of things like Google Chrome, and because of Skype, and the fact that people are seeing Skype for Business showing up on their computers now, they may be feeling a little bit more comfortable just kind of going out and trying to find things on their own. Where I'm at is a very interesting position, because we do act as kind of a middleman, but at the same time we are mostly support side of stuff, so we are the end user. So it's different in that sort of sense. But I do see a lot of people that are going out and saying, well, why can't I just do this? Why can't I just do that? Apple TV is a great example of that. So I think on one hand it could be very beneficial, but at the same time I think it could also lead to doors being open that could cause people buying products that they think they need but can't really verbalize what they specifically need when talking to the maker directly, and not get the end product that they want.
All right, Roger, from your standpoint as both manufacturer and also someone who's been in the industry for a while, is this something that, take it from Polycom's standpoint, but also maybe from Josh's point of view as well, how significant is this shift by Polycom? Roger? No. All right, so the internet in Southern California has quit. We'll let Roger.
Oh, I'm back.
There he is. Yay, Roger.
I don't know what's going on over here. I've been going in and out. So I'm assuming you want to talk about kind of where a manufacturer might fit in, as I was hearing a little bit in and out. So this is kind of an interesting story, and kind of an interesting response for Polycom to what's going on in the marketplace right now. Crestron's under a lot of attack from a lot of different angles, and a lot of different manufacturers out there doing things kind of like what Polycom is doing with this announcement. So seeing Polycom do this, Josh, I know you're worried about programming and everything like that. We are looking into the future as far as how Crestron's going to put everything on the internet and bring everything together, use our new pinpoint, and try to make it more relevant for everybody going forward. Polycom's response seems to be in the now. This is what people needed a year ago and for the last year, so hey, let's come out with this product right now. Polycom's got a big thing that they're trying to save, and they're trying to keep themselves being relevant as compared to Microsoft and Cisco out there. So they have to do something like this in order to try to make something happen, or they're going to go the way of Picturetel. And I'm sure there's people from Polycom watching this right now that are going to tune in and probably put me on a board with the darts and all kinds of stuff like that as I say it. But they have to do something because otherwise they're the guys that are making the set-top boxes that sit on top of the TVs or under the TVs and just do point-to-point video conferencing, and they have to get more into this digital world and interact more with Skype and everything else. So this is their move to do that. Is this going to be the be-all, end-all? I don't think so. My gut tells me, and there's no pricing available in the article, that this will be priced significantly higher than a lot of other things out there. So I think Polycom is definitely trying to do something to save themselves, and it continues to show the industry and everybody else out there that this is kind of a direction that people are going. You know, like you had mentioned, Tim, RL2 is something that's out there. You've got Cisco going into this market as well. So this isn't the first time that somebody is doing this, and it won't be the last. It's just a matter of doing something different. But the Internet of Things is really what changes everything right now. And we have to continue to look at not just our immediate needs in these huddle spaces. And this is not a huddle space room. Looking at that picture that you put up there for
not that one. No, I mean, but a couple of their things had 2 or 3 space, 2 or 3 seat solutions. So that's the one I mean as a huddle space.
Yeah, and we're in this battle, and everybody that does rooms that are in those huddle space areas, it's hard to get those price points up. So we're constantly trying to find ways for, if it's not an RL2 room, to bring it into a room that the end user will put on the network so that they get all the benefits that enjoys. I don't see a proprietary thing from a single manufacturer that doesn't do everything taking over the world. So don't worry, Josh, we're okay.
Well, let me ask you this.
No. I'm not saying that we're not okay. I'm saying that this cuts out a lot of opportunity for smaller rooms for us because of the fact that they can go directly around us. This is an HDMI, a USB cable, and a network cable. Done. That's it. There's nothing to integrate, and it lives on their network. It's monitored on their network. It's controlled on their network. I'm not saying that Crestron's in trouble. By God, I mean, the 800-pound gorilla playing the victim? No, I'm not claiming that in any way. What I'm saying is this, as an industry, puts ourselves in a position that smaller rooms are going to have simpler and simpler solutions to suit them. When they just want a phone, now they can add a phone plus potential video integration, which expands that opportunity direct to customer. That's where I'm going. I'm not talking about the Centro. The Centro is something that's a really cool product, but I don't see it being a be-all, end-all for anything. I'm focusing solely on the Trio, just the Trio, as something that concerns me in terms of opportunity for AV integrators. That's where my line is drawn.
Okay.
Well, and here's the other thing. The other thing is Josh mentioned the 800-pound gorilla referring to Crestron. I love Crestron. I have a lot of friends that work there, and I'm not being disparaging. They're not when it comes to when you compare them to Microsoft and you compare them to Samsung, you compare them to Cisco, the other players that are playing in this same space. They're just they're not on the same level. You guys have got a lot of great products, and yes, you're very successful when it comes to the AV and the automation space and transporting video. But if you want to get down to brass tacks and start talking about bottom lines and available revenue, holy cow! If Microsoft wanted to go after AMX or Extron or Crestron or anybody else, they could. Right, because they have the capital, because they have the resources. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to or anything else like that, but it's important sometimes when it comes to stuff like this. I have no idea what Polycom's bottom line is, but it's important to realize and to understand and to remember where we are, in the world of IT and the world of technology.
Well, maybe this will be the driving factor for your prediction that Cisco will finally buy Crestron.
I didn't say Crestron. I said they're going to buy a control company.
Well, look, we continue to partner at Crestron with all of these guys. We've got a great partnership with Microsoft. We've got a great partnership with Polycom. We have a good partnership with Cisco. So we're not looking for any of them to do poorly. We want everyone to succeed. We want all the dealers to succeed. That's where we all want to go. And Josh, geez, we want our programmers to succeed. Tim.
You don't want me to succeed. Ray, what do you think about all this when it comes to, how important is this? It's not a shift. It's kind of an evolution by Polycom. What do you think of this new introduction?
So it's an evolution just on not only with Polycom, but you'll see just like the next subject we're going to talk about, same type of thing where people are joining forces. The bring your own devices, Internet of Things is growing every day, and it's definitely an evolution of everything. As far as the integrating with different systems, and so I'm not surprised by it.
All right, let's bring up that next topic that Ray mentioned, the fact that InFocus has acquired Jupiter Systems. If you're not familiar with Jupiter, Jupiter is a video wall and enterprise collaboration software maker. Roger, from your standpoint, and I'm not talking about the Crestron standpoint, just you as a technologist and someone who's been in the industry for a while. Good move by InFocus. Does it make sense, or is it one of those where you kind of scratched your head when you saw it?
Oh, I thought it was a great move by InFocus. InFocus needed something else. And I've sold InFocus in my past as a dealer for many years, and I've met a lot of the people over there, and they've been a U.S.-based company for a long time, and after the projector market started to fall apart, they definitely needed to make a change, and from a Jupiter perspective, I think that market has become more competitive for them as well. So I think it was a great merger on the two companies' parts. It really it shows that there's more of a movement towards a one-stop shop, and that's kind of a move that we're seeing across the board, across the industry, and both of these companies realizing that, and so you have to imagine that in some way these products are going to be designed to work together going forward, rather than just being two independent products, which should ultimately make both of them better. So I think it's a great move.
Josh, when it comes to this, is this one of these things where when I think of InFocus, and Roger, thank you for the reminder, I had forgotten that InFocus made projectors, and they did many years ago, and still do. But I'm looking at this more along the lines of their Mondo Pad line of products, and this is one of those things where I can see Jupiter swinging in and kind of being integrated all in one into a Mondo Pad experience. Is this something where that makes sense, Mr. Strego? You're muted.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. Being able to incorporate any kind of interactivity and develop the Mondo Pad even farther. I've been a fan of the Mondo Pad. I think that they did some great things with it. I think it's a good product. Everybody went on and on about when the Microsoft Surface Hub was delayed, and my first reaction was kind of, why? We already have products that do very similar things. I don't see the big deal in the delay, and I look at the Mondo Pad as being that. So if they're going to add more feature sets to that, if they're going to add more interactivity and add more collaboration capability to that, then it's just going to further ingrain a product that already has at least even a minimal foothold for what it does in the AV space. So yeah, I mean, I see this being a further development and further exaggeration towards that.
All right. Ray, from your standpoint, is this an acquisition that makes sense for InFocus, or does it make sense for Jupiter to say, yeah, let's join a bigger company and let's start getting into hardware a little bit more in depth?
Well, it seems like you have two different companies that are the masters at what they do. Of course, there's many other hardware providers and software providers, but you have two solid companies, and with them joining forces at that point, like someone had mentioned, I wouldn't be surprised if then you get new products with both, an InFocus with a Jupiter Systems, brain built into it, and having combined hardware and software solution all in one just makes more sense.
All right, Peter, from your standpoint, as sort of not sort of an end user, as an end user, is that something that's intriguing to you? Getting something like this Mondo Pad already had several pieces of software already built in, but getting this multi-view, this video wall stuff already built into it, is that enticing? And would you expect a higher price? Would you pay a higher price, or is it one of these things where you just kind of expect it to be as an add-on, almost like a firmware update?
I think for existing stuff, definitely would prefer more of an add-on, kind of a firmware update type of thing. But if you look from an end user perspective, as you look as a whole, the idea of getting something that has the brains of integrated into it is definitely appealing, more of the one-stop shop type of thing. Around here where I'm at, Infocus was definitely more known for the projectors way back in the day, so to speak. And by way back, I mean not that far way back, but you know what I mean. So I think it's an interesting merger, to say the least. I think from an end user perspective, we definitely have our choices that we go with. To see different companies kind of bring their two strengths together is definitely makes it a little bit more appealing, as opposed to an Infocus saying we are designing something that Jupiter has done. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. From a standpoint of an end user, I think a few months from now will really tell the tale as to what this merger is really going to bring to the fold with regards to what we as end users can bring into what we use on a daily basis.
Yeah, I'm going to be kind of curious myself. I would expect, if I were still in higher ed, I would expect it to be kind of an add-on, and not that they didn't pay anything for it, but kind of integrate it, guys, and work it in. So, all right, our next story. It was an interesting Twitterverse when this came out, and this is kind of 2 in 1. So we're going to talk about HDMI cables for a couple minutes. So if this is not something you want to listen to, or HDMI cables in general bore you, you can skip ahead to the next story, which is going to be about Infocom and AV month. So, and by the way, happy AV month, everybody. So the first story out of this. The HDMI Consortium, and if you're not familiar with what that is, these are the folks that actually license HDMI. Like the word HDMI, you have to buy a license from them. HDMI Licensing LLC announced the quote-unquote premium HDMI cable certification program. And for those of you watching on video, I'm going to show you the pretty gold little label you can get if you get said certification label.
Ooh, shiny,
pretty, isn't it? Even comes with a QR code. I'm not quite sure what the heck that does, but whatever. It probably takes you straight to hdmi.org. Peter, we're going to start with you. And so the first thing I'm going to say about it is this. It feels very much like the guys at Monster Cable got a hold of HDMI. That's all I'm going to say about that. That's all I'm going to say. Peter, as somebody who probably buys a fair share of HDMI cables, is this important, bud?
Is it important? For a person that wants to deal with cables that we know are going to be quality and last a fair amount of time, I say yes. The catch being HDMI cables have become such a common thing for everybody outside of the end users, outside of just us as technicians. So you have people that will email, be like, hey, I'm going to buy this X cable from Amazon. Is it going to be good? And so we're still going to see a lot of those kind of purchases on there. I think from a standpoint of if we start seeing a Crestron or an AMX or whoever get on board and be like, hey, we're going to start slapping our name with these labels as well, then I think we start paying attention a little bit more. But there's so many HDMI brands out there, and HDMI has just become so synonymous with, what I plug into my Blu-ray player, that it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I think from a technician standpoint and the knowledge base that we have, I think we're going to pay attention to it. But like I said, I think given the fact that a lot of other people out there just buy HDMI cables from Amazon, it's going to take a little bit of time before people actually start paying attention to that, because it seems like you get those kind of labels not necessarily in technology, but all over the place nowadays. A1 certified beef to be
Yep.
as an example. And some people fully believe and buy into that. Some people don't. Just like some people buy food at Whole Foods, and some people say, Walmart is okay. So I think that's going to be the telltale sign. I think as a technician end user, yes, I will definitely pay attention to it. But the extent of it, I think, is going to be determined by the other end users who do not have the technical knowledge base behind that.
Okay. Ray, from your standpoint, and I want to bring up, Peter mentioned Amazon. I'll also bring up a couple different ones. So let's bring the kind of the big three. You've got Extron, you have AMX, and you have Crestron. You can get HDMI cables from all three of those. You also have a company called Mondo Price, right? Mondo Price, if you're not familiar with them, it's actually a cool little website. They're not an underwriter, and they're not paying me to say that. I think it's a cool little website because they've got some neat little gadgets and gizmos. You can get HDMI cables labeled with your own company, right? So we could sell AVNation HDMI cables, So I'm going to be curious as to whether or not the Mondo Prices and the Crestrons and the AMXs and the Extrons get this premium thing. Ray, from your standpoint, does this label matter to you when you're starting to bid out a job and get your cable count ready?
Like I had mentioned, it all depends if the big boys get on board with it and they start adapting it, going into it, then it's going to hold some value. Mainly because if they're doing it and the big name brands are also picking it up, you know how it is. If everyone's doing it, then it becomes popular, and then if you don't have and if you don't use those cables with those certifications, it could potentially, you could lose a cable sale. So it just depends who adapts it, who's going to go through the process of getting the certification, in my opinion, as to whether or not, I'm going to do it or some of our people that I know will do it.
All right, Roger, I'm going to pick on you, and not that Roger has anything to do with HDMI procurement at Crestron. He has nothing to do with it, so if you sell these things, don't call him, don't email him. However, from a manufacturer standpoint, is this important? I mean, I mentioned the fact that you can get HDMI cables from Crestron, you can get them from Extron, you can get them from other people. Not to be silly or pointed, but you guys don't make them. You OEM from somebody else, right? And you guys test them. They test them. Everybody tests them in this, that, and the other. You have certain standards in this, that, and the other. So is this one of those things that's going to be important for Crestron going forward to make sure that they have this gold label certified thing?
Well, look, there's no question about it that the quality of the cable has a direct impact on the system performance. And over the past few years, as HDMI has kind of evolved away from telling you whether you're 1.3 or 1.4 or 2.0 and just telling everyone to focus on what the capabilities are that their connectors will use, kind of that whole idea of what really happens over that cable has become more of a mystery to a lot of people. Where you used to be looking for 1.3 or 1.4 or 2.0, we've been kind of told, talk about what you're doing over HDMI, not which format you're using. So it's amazing that the cable is one of the last things people believe will fail, but it's also one of the first things to fail in a system. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a huge deal. Now, then it becomes okay, we're just talking about cables, and we're bringing back the $40 HDMI cable, essentially. But when I have a dealer that I talk to anywhere in the country, as I travel around and meet people, and they say to me, I use $1 HDMI cables. And then I look at them, and the first thought in my mind is, so when you're troubleshooting your system, do you have some known good cables so that in case the cable's the problem, you go to that first before you blame our $1,000 box is the problem? And that's where a lot of the concern comes into play, is people forget how important the cable is. This is not the analog world anymore, where if it didn't go across the cable well, you just amplified the wave and made the wave bigger, and by the time it got through the cable, it arrived okay. This is the digital world. You have it or you don't. and it's a good thing. I just wonder if it's too late that they're doing this.
Yeah, good point. The one thing I will ask Roger, and real quickly, you mentioned kind of the $1 cable. The opposite is true though, isn't it? I mean, I don't have to spend $1,000 on a 6-foot HDMI cable for it to be good.
No.
Okay, because they exist. I'm not making this up. There is a company out there. I've been to several different manufacturers' training where they will bring up this website. I'm not going to give them any press or mentions here, but it's like diamond and emerald and all this jazz. And I'm not kidding you. There is a $1,000 6-foot cable, HDMI. That's all it is. Right.
It is virgin rubbed, right?
Do what now?
It's a virgin rubbed.
Yes, virgin. Yes, virgin rubbed. Virgin rubbed. It passes power and all this. Yeah, it's stupid. All right. So you don't have to. I want to give people to get the impression that the more you spend on HDMI is going to give them better quality, right? Yes, I get your point on the $1 one, but I also want to make sure that they understand that $1,000 for a 6-foot is just ridiculous.
Oh well. If it works, then hey, people can tell if everybody they got a $1,000 cable and other people don't. So remember the old days when, you wanted to be able to tell people how great your cables were for your speakers.
No, Roger.
In my opinion, if it allows us to sell higher end cables, I think the certification is great. So if it becomes mainstream, I'm all for it because if I can sell. We get a lot of clients that say, I have my own cables. Now I have something I can go to them and say, well, is it certified? Yeah. And I think it's a plus, as long as people adopt it.
That's what, Ray. That's a really good point. Is you can that kind of a differentiator, right, for you, Mr. Strego. When it comes to this certification and also the other story is the fact that UL is starting to test HDMI cables. Is this a big deal when it comes to cabling in the AV world?
It's a very, very. Is it a big deal? No. Is it a very good thing? Yes. And the thing that I haven't heard the focus of this conversation hit on is this is about high speed. This is all about 4K, which is an argument I have had at endless debates with people. Is the fact that HDMI cables cannot at 1.4 can't do 4K. They're not physically capable of it. And in order to pass certification for these cables, you have to be able to hit 18 gigabits. That means you have to be able to meet HDMI 2.0 spec. That means you help me prove Mark Coxon wrong that HDMI at 2.0 can actually pass 4K content on a single pipeline. Now, is it full 4K, 444? No, of course not. But we're not going to get into chroma and sampling and all that wonderful fun stuff at this point. You just get to help me prove Mark wrong. And that's the part that matters to me, is that I get to be right over Mark Coxon from a debate that started almost a year ago at this point. So, yes, it's very, very good because it also gives us a differentiation for consumers, which is now we can actually brand a cable 4K certified. And that's the thing that comes in here is this is a UHD, this is a 4K certified cable that's capable of doing these things, whereas this other HDMI 2.0 cable that says it isn't 4K certified. So it's allowing HDMI and it's allowing display manufacturers and content providers or content source providers to say, we have the certification cable provided in our box that will allow you to do the 4K thing that up until this moment we couldn't guarantee that you would be capable of doing because we didn't have a certification. And the fact that UL is stepping in to do this shows that somebody at UL has been paying attention to folks that have been saying, hey, you understand the weak link in all of this is transport, right? So now they're stepping in to get themselves involved and make sure that consumers aren't getting screwed by people that are saying, oh, we can do that. No, you can't. In fact, I can prove you can't. I can take my testers out and I can show how you're not physically capable of doing that. So with HDMI stepping up to do this, with UL stepping in to also help with it, I see the benefit to consumers. So on the consumer side of this, I see wonderful things. Yes, of course they're going to charge more for a certified cable. So, hey, that sucks, but do you want something that works or do you want something that may work? You pay for what you're going to pay for it. It's just that's how life is. So benefits, yes. I get to be right over Mark Coxon, which is the best part about all of this. And in the end, somebody gets a product that actually works. So I'm seeing good things here all across the board. And the fact that HDMI finally wants to take responsibility for making sure this is getting done is something they should be commended for. Now, it's not mandatory. It is participation voluntary. So we still have people that are going to do whatever we want, and we're still going to get knockoffs. And, of course, you're going to find people that market in a way that makes it look very similar, but at least people are recognizing that this needed to be done, and people needed to step up in order to do it.
Yeah.
The only sad part here that I see is that we're limiting this to just the HDMI cables. You know, Crestron's one of the first people to go out there and tell you, well, this is how far you can go with Cat5e, this is how far you can go with our DM cable, and this is how far we want you to go with DM Ultra cable, and when to use each cable. So, you know, if you're just looking at a rack of equipment and moving your content from your Blu-ray, which, you know, or your GoPro to your system, then, you know, a 6-foot cable is fine, but all of us that are on this call are doing a little bit more than just that 6-foot HDMI cable. So we've got to look beyond just that right now.
So are you suggesting that you know, the HDMI LLC folks take a look at other transports that's transporting HD signals? Is that what I'm getting, Roger? Or you want somebody else to take, like UL, to take, you know, Cat5e and Cat6 and Cat7?
Well, you have to remember that those are multifunction cables.
Yeah.
So in a way, you know, they're made to move a certain amount of gigabits over those cables, and they have their own ratings. So someone's looking at them already. That's why they're certified as Cat5e, Cat6a, Cat7a, and all that. So they are certified, and someone is looking at them. The difference being there's no one looking at them besides what I can tell, Crestron, saying, hey, Cat5e is good up to 50 meters. Cat6a is good for up to maybe about 70 meters, and Cat7a will go that 100-meter distance. That's part, when we look at video over this category cable, I don't know of anyone else doing that besides Crestron.
Yeah, that would be interesting to have the UL, because I don't think, I mean, let's take it back to both articles here. HDMI doesn't care, right? I mean, not to be too pointed about it, but they don't care about category cable. They want you to buy the HDMI cables with the funky little connector that doesn't lock or whatever. But UL would be probably the best one for that. Either that, or the transport manufacturers, that the people that are creating these standards that you guys are using, whether that's HD-based or AVB or TSN, sorry, or what have you. That would be one of those organizations that you could say, you know, here's, you know, an HDMI certified cable, it'll go X amount of length for this resolution. You know, that would make a whole lot of sense. Yeah,
I agree. I think the HD-based people should jump in a little bit more before the UL people or anyone else, because it is a standardized cable, and as long as it's a good quality standardized cable, it should meet the specification performance and be consistent.
All right, real quickly, and just so it's been said, you know, I'm not beyond error. I said Mondo Price is the name of the website. Mono Price is the name of the website. I think I had Mondo Pad on the brain. So Mono Price is where you can get cables, HDMI cables listed with your own company. So I may have to send Tucker along the lines of seeing if we can't make some AV Nation certified.
We all know what you meant.
AV Nation, huh?
We all knew what you meant.
Well, you know, some people didn't. Somebody's probably looking up Mondo Price right now, and with my luck, it's probably some weird site, you know.
No, they were looking up the Mondo board before the Mondo Price.
Oh, there we go. All right. So this is AV month. A couple years ago, well, more than a couple years ago, like 10 years ago, Infocom started AVWeek, the actual celebration of all things AV, and I guess about 2 years ago, they expanded it into an entire month-long celebration. So if you guys have something that you're doing at your organizations, whether it's Crestron or the college or Ray, let me know. I'm going to have Mr. Strago tell you what he's doing for AV month. Something that he started last year at about the 2nd or 3rd of October, I think.
Yes, my brilliant idea to do 31 broadcasts, be it a blog or a podcast in 31 days, that I started on October 2nd last year. And AV Nation is doing it again, and we're riding right along right now. And basically it just comes down to we saw this as an opportunity last year to allow a lot of stories to be told. And while we have blogs and we have content that come up pretty regularly, Tim has the Monday morning meeting, Mike Brandis contributes the Friday 5, we wanted to see if we could expand that a little bit more and maybe find people whose voices aren't necessarily heard, people who don't write a lot. Maybe they write 1 or 2 posts a year. This gave us an opportunity to maybe bring them together and get some guest posts in there to help other stories be told, and just utilizing AVNation as a platform. So we've been doing that again this year, and we've seen some great contributions. A lot of our regulars have been contributing, and we've got a few other ones that that I'm working my way through. So in terms of my activities for AV Month, I'm not sleeping. I'm editing as soon as I get home, and writing as soon as I get home, and working on the next. I mean, as Tim and I were joking earlier this week, I think I wrote 3,000 words in the span of a day, just piece after piece after piece, trying to get them out. So there's more coming down the pipeline from me, and there's other people that will be contributing. And then I happened coincidentally to give an interview last week to my old high school talking about careers in AV. It's not going to come out for a little while, but they found out about some of the stuff that I've been up to through my mother, and basically said we want you to tell the story as contributions. And I thought that was kind of cool, that this is an opportunity to tell the AV story, that we're sort of a niche industry, we're often forgotten as an option for careers, and making sure that people are aware that there's things going on here. If they love music, if they love video, and they want to be involved in the technology, there's a lot of opportunity there for them in this industry, that they can have successful careers, long-lasting careers. People we ran into this week are 30 and 40-year veterans of this industry, and extraordinarily successful, and have bright futures, wonderful retirement plans, all sorts of things that this industry can provide to them if they have the interest in it. And so I'm really looking forward to that piece coming out when it does. It's not going to be for a little while. Then their next magazine runs in a few months, so that'll be coming out. But our biggest activity is, AVNation has always been about explaining the why, explaining the relevance of the information that we get to people, and letting the conversation develop from there. We want to share people's stories. We want you to share your stories with us, so that we can, let people know that you have a unique experience, or you have a unique opinion about something. That's what we've always been about here. And so if there's somebody out there that's listening to this or reading this, and you want to share your story, it isn't just about AV Month. And Infocom has even taken a step back this year in making that. They're not focusing on their AV Month activities as much. They want to start pushing that year-round involvement from people. And we here at AVNation are big on that. So if there's something that you guys want to tell, or a story that you want to share with people, let me know, let Tim know. You can get a hold of us both very easily. Myself is Josh at avnation.tv. I'm happy to take stories on any time, and work with you and develop it, and see how we can get your story told as well.
Yeah, Josh is a very good editor. He even edits my piece, because I misspell things from time to time.
It and if are two different words, Tim.
You know what? Speaking of Infocom, they actually have an AV Month toolkit on their website. We'll put a link to their AV Month suggestions on this episode's page. So, Roger or Peter or Ray, are you guys doing anything for AV Month?
I'll jump in here real quick. Where I'm at right now is well, we are an audiovisual classroom support department. We are still part of the larger IT department here at this university. So a couple weeks ago, we did a technology awareness day, and while it wasn't directly connected to AV Month, I thought it was very prudent, because I think a lot of what AV Month can bring is just the exposure of what we bring to the table. Whether we like it or not, technology professionals have a stigma that people assume we are nerds and hang out in dark closets and don't come out very much and that kind of stuff. I'm not saying everybody is that way, but so I think it was great that we had the opportunity to get out and to show people, hey, this is what we do, this is what we bring to the table, because I think a lot of what AV does is help people accomplish their visions, whether it's creating a little huddle room that can help get meetings done, to large lecture halls that can be used for things like TED Talks. I think exposure to those type of things is definitely very beneficial. So the more exposure we can give to people to what we can do, and not just, what we have to offer as far as technical expertise, but also just like what we bring to the table with regards to our personalities and how we think differently than what most people think with regards to technology. So that's just a little bit of what we've done here. For me, I think AV Month is great. I think every single day is an opportunity to show people what we can do. So while AV Month is a great way to highlight it, it is a year-round thing, and constantly talking to people and saying, hey, you did this way. Well, we might have a better option for you that might work a lot better. So that's kind of what we've done a little bit from an end user perspective.
It makes sense. That makes sense. One of the other ways that they suggest, and I've done this in the past, where you get a piece written, or like Josh interviewed by your local paper, your local thing, your local Better Business Bureau, Rotary Club, stuff like that, where you can educate folks exactly what we do. So, all right, as we wrap up here, this is a silly story. There's no comment needed unless you just really like to comment about the AV selfie. But our buddies over at AV Magazine hold their yearly awards ceremony, and I just side note, I think it would be really cool just to go to an award ceremony for AV. That just would be flat out cool. Plus, it's in London, so that would also be cool. But AV Magazine it's a UK-based magazine. Great group of folks. I met Clive and the whole gang of them at Infocom this year in Orlando. They had the world record AV selfie. I'm not sure if it was a record, but they're claiming it, and I'll take their word for it. Almost 950 people in one single AV selfie. So congratulations to Clive and everybody over at AV Magazine for having the world record AV selfie.
Do they realize they're going to force Neto to break fire code in Vegas at Infocom next year just to beat this?
Yes, he's going to. Chris Neto, one of our guys at AV Nation, is very much in the AV selfie camp. Loves it a lot. We do a song typically in the last 2 years at Infocom. And AV selfie is something that happens all year round, right? It's not necessarily around a particular event. It does ramp up during specific events, during CEDIA, during ISE, during the AV Awards ceremony for AV Magazine. So yeah, we're going to have to, maybe we'll partner with them and get a bigger one. Maybe that's what we'll have to do. So, but anyhow, congratulations to the guys at AV Magazine. So that is all the time we have. Mr. Peter Mitchell from University of Colorado. Easy for me to say, Denver. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be here, and ski season is approaching, so get those skis and snowboards out.
All right. And any other final comments you'd like to make?
Hashtag Let's Go. Hashtag Cubs Rule.
There you go. See, I am not an angry Cardinal fan. I'm an angry Bears fan, but that's a whole other story. They finally won a game. That's all I'm going to say. Ray Estrada from TechMax Technologies. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I did have a quick note. What we're doing as far as for AV is, together with CEDIA, we've developed a course called Más allá de lo precableado, descripción de los conceptos básicos de flujo de señal. Pretty much that means the basics of signal flow for a cable, and that's pretty much what, with CEDIA's help, of course, they've did the whole course, and we've just helped how to get someone from possibly a pre-wire standpoint and how to understand from a pre-wire to actual racking and automation. So that's the little part that we're trying to do to get people past a certain point to the next level and get more people knowledge in the automation world.
And is that a class that people can take at CEDIA, or is that on their online one?
This will actually be the first year, but yes, that class is actually Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. and that would be on the 17th of October.
Very good, which is next week. If those of you don't know, and I'll tell you what we're doing next week with CEDIA. Roger Takis, my buddy, my pal from Southern California, and Crestron. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thanks for having me again, Tim. I apologize for all the network dropouts. I'm not sure what was going on over here. I think I dropped off about 4 times today.
Just blame your local service provider. I don't even know who that is in Southern California.
made me feel a little flustered as I was trying to keep up with the conversations, and
Oh, you're
then
fine.
all of a sudden I'd come back and you'd ask me a question.
Well, keep you on your toes.
Oh, thanks.
How can people find you, sir?
You can reach me through Twitter if you'd like, at CrestronRoger, or through Crestron's website.
Crestron.com, that one I know.
Yeah.
Also, last but not least, Josh Schrigo from soundreason.org and our editor-in-chief here at AV Nation. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you, Tim. It's always nice to be on. And for those of you that want to be able to contribute more to AV Month, let's not forget we do have the hashtag game running on Twitter with AV hashtags. This week it is hashtag 5, the digit, words to improve AV. Apparently, Chris Netto has recently posted one way for you to do that is to send me a blog. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Nice.
So, thanks. But again, this was always in good fun, and it's always good to be on the show.
If you're interested, Josh he posted this on Sound Reason, and I tell you what, Josh and I have a lot of similar interests when it comes to music and theater and stuff like that. And he wrote a piece inspired by the musical Hamilton. The fabulous piece, really great music that he turned me on to this week. So, if you get a chance to check out the website, soundreason.org. So,
thank you.
Ray mentioned the CEDIA. Here's what we're doing next week, kids. We will be at CEDIA, so we will not do this live at 2 o'clock Eastern or on next Friday. So but we'll be on the show floor. Ray, if you're out there, come by the beer garden at 2 o'clock. That's apparently where we're going to be. So come by there. We'll have Matt Scott. We'll have Todd Puma will be with us. Heather Sidorowicz. Victoria Ferrari and my brother, Mr. Fregosa, will be with us as well. So so check that out if you would. If you're at CEDIA next week, come by and say hi. We've got that. Plus we have the AV tweets, the AV Tweeps tweet up from 4 to 6 o'clock. Also at the beer garden. It's just a great networking event made possible by all of our wonderful underwriters. So check that out if you would, please. Check out the blogs for AV Month and also all of our other shows at avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. This has been AV Week.